Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from the Colonial Dungeon, this is the Court Martial Podcast! Introducing your host for this evening, he has a bald spot on the top of his head, and he weighs in tonight at a number you don't need to know. He is the Colonial Loudmouth, Sean McCarty! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Court Martial Podcast. It is episode 22. 22? Oh man! Goldberg! Why me? Why me? Why me? And welcome to another edition of the Court Martial Podcast. I am, as always, your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, mixing it up. Here on our 22nd episode, ACPW revealed today, but that is not the only thing we're doing. Because we have, as always, a lot to talk about. And with as vast and as fast-paced as the wrestling world has been nowadays, I couldn't possibly do it alone. And with me, as always, is the proprietor of the National Wrestling League, and a man who has very many opinions. How many of them are true or not, I'll leave to your discretion. Skyler Greenberg, welcome back.
Good to be back on the show, and I have a special announcement.
Yes.
The National Wrestling League had an attendance of one person at our last show, more than WrestleMania 36.
That's right.
So clearly, the National Wrestling League is already outdrawing WWE.
Yep, and I have a feeling that ACPW might be doing a bit of the same. But only time will tell. And so our first thing that we wanted to talk about, and we're gonna spend some time on this. I teased it on the live stream last week, and it's still a little surreal to talk about it because there's still so much information not present. We've only gotten little bits and pieces, but we're kind of seeing which one of some of these accusations, what ones have base and what don't, and it's the whole speaking out movement. And it's interesting to me, Sky, that this is kind of transformed from sexual assault allegations, which was the very first part of this, but it's kind of morphed into any dumb shit that wrestling's done. And that's kind of how it's turned, as far as, like, people who are still in employ or are promoters or things along that, like, it's amazing how much this has developed in such a short amount of time.
I have to agree with you. This all started with David Starr, the wrestler who was accused of sexual assault.
Yep.
And after him, just a firestorm, just click, click, click. Everyone is coming out with their stories about abuse.
Yeah.
Be it sexual, be it bullying, be it domestic violence. And it has hit all facets of pro wrestling. I don't even know where to start, honestly.
Yeah, no, seriously. When we say the shit hit the fan, there's probably never been a more accurate description of what's been going down in the wrestling business. I mean, from left to right. I mean, it started with allegations, but the original list, which was in, what was that, Thursday? It's been like a week, pretty much. It was like Thursday or Friday. And in that time, the initial list on that day was like 40 people.
Not only was it 40 people, but it was very specifically the British wrestling scene. Like, almost half of those names were British wrestlers on the independent circuit.
Yeah, which is
the United
weird.
Kingdom.
It's really weird, and it's like it was not even specifically them, because obviously this is branched out far beyond anything that I think even anyone who was speaking out that day could have imagined. But it was kind of sad to see that many names of the British wrestling scene, and I'm not big into British wrestling just because I haven't seen a ton of it, and I don't know. I'm not one to accept allegations as fact until more facts are given, but it's been very clear, Sky, and I'm sure you can testify to this, which allegations are holding and which ones seem to have just gotten swept in the hysteria of the movement.
Well, I mean, is anyone really surprised that wrestling has a dark side?
No.
I mean, you look at the success of the dark side of the ring. Wrestling is chock full of these dark, shady stories around promoters, wrestlers, bookers, referees, and so on and so forth. Like, I feel like this is going to lead towards a hopeful cleansing of wrestling and getting rid of these people.
It might.
And is there anyone specific you want to talk about?
Well,
there's a couple people I specifically want to talk about.
I think it was interesting before we get to that. A lot of the names on the list had already had a whole series of prior issues, like Del Rio and Teddy Hart, and there were a lot of people on that list that were not surprising. Let's be honest here. There were a lot of them that if you followed kind of the wrestling sphere, you kind of knew that these guys were kind of scummy, so you wouldn't be that shocked if those guys had done some things. But then there were some names that really threw me. Like, for example, I was really surprised with Jack Gallagher.
That one was a little bit off guard. I wouldn't expect someone like Jack Gallagher to be involved in those kinds of things.
I know. But you just never know. That's the thing. It's a crazy thing. But for every one of those ones where there's been substantial evidence, as in, and I'm sure you're going to want to talk about Velveteen Dream, where there is now pretty significant evidence of misgivings, if you will.
We'll get to him in a second.
Yes.
I'll save that for a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the allegations I'm not surprised about is Joey Ryan.
No. I mean, look at this guy's gimmick.
That dude has 16 different allegations from 16 different people.
And his statement was pretty much an admission of guilt, but not, I don't know, it wasn't like a flat out saying I did it, but he wasn't saying he didn't do it. And then people just really started coming out of the woodwork with him.
Right. And it's hit a couple of pretty big names, like the vice president of the NWA, Dave Lagana, I think.
Dave Lagana.
Dave Lagana.
Who has denied the accusations.
Huh?
He's denied the accusations, but he has now lost his job at NWA.
Well, he personally resigned because he didn't want to damage the NWA.
Well, that ship has kind of sailed as far as right. Lagana goes. But, here's my thing about Lagana, and I'm not going to get too far into this just because, as you know, Sky, I'll actually start having a conniption. And I don't want to have a conniption. Not on this show. I've got more stuff to do. But when Lagana ended up being a spineless little prick when they had the Jim Cornette chicken joke situation, which was handled poorly on all sides, and that's as far as I'm going to say about that. His spinelessness really turned me off to the NWA, and it's because of Dave Lagana that I stopped watching. So him resigning because of accusations like this, I'm not incredibly sympathetic towards him and the type of behavior that he's exhibited up to this point. I know that probably sounds cold, but what goes around comes around.
You are defined by your actions and what you do and what you don't do.
Yeah.
And then there are a couple of interesting people like Sammy Garva of AEW and
Sammy
also
Guevara.
Matt Riddle of WWE.
Well, the thing with Sammy Guevara, is that his things were all about tweets from 2016 when he was, 17?
No, he's not that. He's not that.
He's pretty young.
He's he was 22?
Yeah, he's maybe in his early 20s. And I'm not trying to defend the guy, right? I'm not trying to say that I'm not giving that old adage, boys will be boys, because that's a toxic defense. To anyone who says that that's not a toxic offense, that's a toxic defense. It's personally the fact that Sammy and Sasha talked through that whole thing. For those of you who don't know, Sammy Guevara made some tweets about wanting to do nasty things to Sasha on an involuntary basis. And only now did those come to light because of this whole speaking out thing. And as a result, Sammy Guevara has now been suspended indefinitely by AEW. But Sasha Banks also posted a statement about her and Sammy talking about it and resolving the issue. So where's the line? Like, what do you fire someone for something they did years ago? Or do you realize that these two people have talked this out as foul as they are, and that if Sammy's willing to apologize and grow from it, which is what it sounds like, I don't think he should be penalized by the company that has hired him, but that's just my opinion.
I totally agree with you. Like, if you look at the Matt Riddle situation, where his accuser has apparently been stalking Matt Riddle for years, and he's been trying to get different restraining orders against her, and he hasn't been able to.
Jesus.
Like, it's important that we listen to these allegations, but we can't just throw everyone to the fire until we get all the facts.
Right.
And that's the most important thing that is a takeaway from this, is that get all the facts before you judge someone.
Yes. Context matters. And I think too often when things like this happen, you get two sides of the equation, and neither of which are healthy. And the first side is the immediate, I believe them. And they're an asshole, and they need to be burned and buried underneath the prison, and the people who came out are so brave and so courageous in coming forward, blah, blah, blah. You got that side of it where immediate condemnation. But then you get the other side of that coin. And the other side of that coin is just basically the straight denial and saying that all of these accusers are just looking for their 15 minutes of fame and basically claiming that they're all lying. And that's not a healthy attitude to have either. But it's exactly as you say, Sky. It's a healthy balance of waiting until more information really comes to light.
And the hardest part right now is that the information is coming quick and fast.
Yes.
Like, just before me and Sean came onto the show, there was an announcement that Chikara, their co-owner, who had resigned due to allegations, and over half of that roster quit that organization. They've now said that they're no longer they're ceasing operations.
See, I'm curious about that, though. The reason I didn't want to mention this too much is that there is, I think, much more to this story than just these allegations. Because it would not just be one set of allegations that would cause half the roster to dip. I think that there is a lot more to why half the roster walked out on this than just this guy got accused of something. And I think we're going to find that out in due time.
And don't worry, me, Sean, and Joshua will keep a close eye on these allegations, because as wrestling fans, we have to do our best to make our industry better.
Yes.
We have to do our part and not support people who are part of these allegations.
Well, that are part of these allegations that have proof.
That have proof so far.
That have proof.
And it is with that in mind that me and my general manager, Kurt Angle, have come to a very difficult decision. Now, when I drafted the Velveteen Dream, I knew about one of the allegations. However, I dismissed it because it was only one allegation and the situation was flimsy and there wasn't any proof. Since then, a couple of other people have come out suggesting that Velveteen Dream has been conducting some lewd behavior and lewd acts with certain people of a certain age. And the National Wrestling League and ACPW do not stand for these types of behaviors. So effective immediately, Velveteen Dream is no longer part of the NWL roster.
So don't send dick pics to underage kids.
Well,
in other words, that's what the allegations are. I appreciate your PR way of phrasing that. I really do. And it was a very well crafted statement. And I was mentioning this on the live stream too, that it's because we have the right to do that. And I think that as we monitor this, if either of us feel uncomfortable with any of those talent, we are reserving the right to make swaps. But that's the only reason and the only way we can do that.
Right, and this is something that me and Sean agree, is that we do not support these behaviors, we don't condone these behaviors. Now, at this time, I don't have an announcement for a replacement for Velveteen Dream. Something will come up at the next show that we will mention.
Yeah, that's okay. Keep kayfabe alive, man. Dude, don't let him in. Don't let him in yet.
We have to go back to our draft board. We have to figure out who was undrafted, and we have a contract now. We have a roster space.
So, it's
But the biggest thing about the speaking out movement, is that this is going to continue, and we're going to find out more information.
Yep.
And we're going to see what happens, because I don't think this is over by a long shot.
Oh no. Well, and which kind of got to, part of what had come out later, and I just saw this right before we came on, and I don't know if this is true, but I've never been a fan of CZW, the Combat Zone Wrestling, from the time that Jon Moxley got his head like sawed open with a sawzall, I knew that that wasn't going to be for me. Well, apparently, one of the guys who owns Combat Zone Wrestling, once in the middle of the ring, had a child basically stand in the ring and started knife edge chopping him until it broke his sternum. And everybody seemed to just forget about that. It's going to be more of this kind of stuff that is going to stop, I think, and this is what I'm hoping comes out of this, Sky. I'm hoping that this will kind of clean out all of the, I hate to use the phrase because Cornette's made so much money off it, outlaw mud show garbage that gives wrestling a bad name. And surprise, surprise, it's most of the people that are being accused of this stuff are the outlaw mud show guys.
I mean, the carny nature of professional wrestling has always invited bad behavior.
Yes.
And it didn't matter what you did as long as you could draw money, but that's no longer the world we live in now.
Nope. It's too easy to find out stuff. You know?
Yep.
They say it's hurt wrestling, but I think if wrestling is gonna turn around in any way, it's gonna have to move on without that kind of reputation. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't have entertaining, badasses in the ring, but we can't.
We just want to make sure that they're not doing anything shady behind the scenes.
Right. That anything that would be of certain abusive nature. I think that we kind of need to. I think the world in general, through all of the civil unrest and through this, is really going through a bit of a paradigm shift, where it's really starting to not tolerate that kind of behavior anymore, and any kind in that situation. And it's going to be interesting to see who sinks and who swims. But as Skyler said, there's so much more to do, and there's so much more about this, and obviously it is our responsibility as podcasters to keep you abreast of the situation, as well as keep you as informed as we are, and not feed you any misinformation. Because there's too much misinformation out there, so when we know the facts, you will know the facts.
I have two final things I want to say about this, and then we'll move on.
All right.
The first thing is that this is going to lead to a lot of turmoil in the professional wrestling business, at least for this year, maybe next year.
No doubt.
But coming out of this, hopefully we can induce a culture that will replace the current one that's currently there, of treating people correctly and not abusing them for the sake of abusing them, because that has been too far gone, not just in wrestling, but in other aspects of the world.
Yep.
That's my first thing.
Yep.
My second thing is, I honestly think that Vice could spend the whole season of Dark Side of the Ring just on this.
I know, they wrote, those two guys have got to be so happy.
Good when it comes out.
Those two have got to be so happy because they had season 3 write itself. Like, they literally do not have to do any of the work anymore. They don't have to go find stories to write about. It's like, June 2020, boom, season 3, let's go.
Honestly, Sean, you know what we should do? We should write a book on 2020.
God, jeez, that'd be something. There's gonna be a lot of books on 2020. There's yeah. I said at the end of 2019 that 2020 really would be hindsight, and so far it has not failed to deliver. It has not.
No, it has not.
But speaking of delivering, we're gonna move on because it is time. Are you ready, Sky? It is time.
I have my ticket in hand. I'm ready to watch a wrestling show.
It is time for Atlantic Coast Pro Wrestling's inaugural episode. It's not called anything else except Atlantic Coast Pro Wrestling. Just like the way Mid-South did it and Memphis did it, we don't have any fun taglines at the end of it. Mostly because I couldn't come up with one. Nothing fit. So I'm like, you know what? It's just going to be ACPW. This is the first episode.
Bringing the sports back better than NWL?
There's going to be no sports entertainment about it. This is wrestling. This is a wrestling show. We're talking apples and oranges here. And I'm not trying to knock you because I did enjoy your sports entertainment show. Oh
no, it was not a sports entertainment show.
I full-fledged did enjoy your sports entertainment show, but I needed to get my healthy dose of wrestling in. Now, before we get started, I want to make some few distinctions clear, just to keep everybody's head in the same framework as mine is, because mine darts around a lot. we have, as far as rules go, we do have the over-the-top rope disqualification that is in play. So just keep that in mind when we are slamming the door on the competition. And you see somebody toss the, we still have that in play. We are not, at least the way that I'm going to structure this, is I'm going to be talking about it as if I were the booker trying to explain the show, as opposed to being somebody on commentary that starts the show. You know what I mean? It's like, I liked your approach, I'm just going to try and work it a little differently. So, this show is going to be based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Namely because there are 3 members of the main event who are all from North Carolina, so I had to give some hometown props to the boys. And so, with that said, I had to figure everybody into this show, and you're going to be hearing me turn pages a lot because I have a lot of pages to turn. This is 3 full pages front and back because I wrote this on actual paper, on actual loose leaf paper, because you can do that nowadays. And
I have a question.
Yes.
When you're done with this show, are you going to be like Jim Cornette and rip up your notes?
Hell no. Hell no. I'm keeping these. I'm keeping these for posterity. I want these for years to come. I don't care how many doors I have to slam to prove my point.
You're going to show them to your grandchildren.
That's right. Hey kids, look at my podcast notes. This is how we booked wrestling in my day. So, we're going to open up with the commissioner, Arn Anderson, who bids some words of welcome and says, "Welcome everyone to Atlantic Coast Pro Wrestling. I'm your commissioner, a former tag team champion, one of wrestling's finest, Arn Anderson. We are so excited to bring you the newest, the best athletes from all over the world have come here to fight for the richest prize, the Atlantic Coast Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. And speaking of, I am here to announce that next week we are going to have a 4-man Atlantic Coast Pro Wrestling title tournament to determine the 2 men who will face each other in 2 weeks' time for the ACPW Heavyweight Championship. The 4 participants in the ACPW title tournament are Walter, Cody Rhodes, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, and Goldberg. And they will all face each other. They're all going to be appearing here tonight, though. They're going to be appearing here tonight, either wrestling in matches or just here to talk, but they're all going to speak about their current situations. So, in their current situations, we also, speaking of, you probably want to know what's going on tonight. So tonight, we are going to crown our first ever ACPW Tag Team Champions as the former Revival, known as FTR now. Dax Hardwood and Cash Wheeler are going face-to-face with the Carolina natives, Matt and Jeff Hardy, the Hardy Boys, for the richest tag team prize. And that's going to be our main event tonight, is the Revival, FTR versus the Hardys. Thank you very much, and now let's bring it over to our commentary table, the 2 men who are going to walk you all the way through. Let's go to Matt Stryker and Tazz. So you cut to Matt Stryker and Tazz, and they talk about all the matches coming up, all the cool things going on, and then we get to our opening match. And Stryker says, let's bring it down to the ring. We've got our ring announcer, Tony Schimmel, because I love Tony, and he still sounds great even now. And the opening match is Mark and Jay, the Briscoe brothers, taking on Mike Hansen and Carl Rowe, formerly known as the Viking Experience. And I'm in this match. Yeah, I know what you mean. And in this situation, what I'm going to do every time, just cutting back to me for a second, every time that I talk about a match, I'm only giving the finish. So everything else, I'm letting them decide. So you have to imagine that these matches are going for as long as I have them go. This match has a 10-minute time limit. Does the Briscoes and Hansen and Rowe. And the finish of this match, if you follow along with me, if you will. So Mark Briscoe and Rowe are in the ring, and they're beating each other down. This is after Rowe has made the comeback as the babyface. Jay tries to bring in a chair and to distract the referee, and the referee's kind of wrenching the chair with Jay, and he's wrenching it. He finally pulls it away from Jay Briscoe, but during that distraction, Mike Hanson's going for the handspring elbow, but Mark reaches into his tights and hits Rowe with the brass knucks. He doesn't go down because he pulls Rowe next to him, and during that handspring elbow, Mike Hanson hits Rowe, and Rowe goes down. And as Hanson is analyzing what he's just done, Mark Briscoe gets him again with the brass knucks. Then, as he's retaking the brass knucks out, he takes and throws Hanson out of the ring and tosses the knucks to Jay, who is now on the top rope. But the referee is turned around just in time, so he didn't see that the knucks had been tossed, so Mark didn't have anything on him. So then Jay, who caught the knucks, put him in his tights, goes up, hits a big senton, and pins Rowe 1, 2, 3, and the Briscoes, through nefarious circumstances, beat Hanson and Rowe. Then we
Interesting starting match.
So it's a shady heel finish for 10 minutes, and the fans are already hot because the Briscoes very clearly cheated, very clearly used things that weren't allowed, distracted the referee, and now we've got Stryker and Tazz who are reacting to this. And all of a sudden Stryker says, okay, well, we have another announcement from Arn Anderson, and they cut to Arn Anderson, and he's about to say congratulations to the Briscoes and who they will face and he gets cut off by a knock on the door. And he says yes, and in comes Santina Marella.
Oh no.
And Santina goes, Mr. Andersoni, I need a match with the women. See, I'm a part of the women's roster. I can't do a good Santino, but Santina, excuse me. I want a match with the women's roster. And now Arn says, all right, listen, Santino, I'm not trying to knock what you're doing here, but listen, you're trying to be something you're not, okay? Like, I know people who really believe in this, but it's not you. I know you. You're Santino. You've always been Santino. And this has just been a little ploy, I guess, for attention, but I'm not giving you a women's match, because you're just going to beat the piss out of them. And it's not going to happen. And Santina gets upset, like, oh, you need to respect my pronouns, and I'm very upset with you, and it's a she, and I'm Santina, and I'm so offended. And Arn says, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not giving you a match. And Santina goes, well, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to get you to give me a match of one a day. And storms out, and Arn Anderson's just like, his head's in his hand. He's like, all right, Matt, let's get back to you. And everybody's kind of groaning. It's the idea here, without spoiling too much, is that Santina is going to draw the ire of someone who really has gone through that lifestyle. Not that I'm picking it up, or somebody who knows somebody like a brother or sister with that lifestyle, and he's going to draw the ire of somebody. But we're not there yet. But it's the only way I could possibly put Santina on this show that was not going to be offensive to a wrestling show. What do you think?
It was still offensive, but that's up to the guy who gave him to you.
Yeah, that's not because of my booking. It's because it's Santina Marella. But so Matt, Stryker, and Tazz.
Good accent.
Yeah, thank you. So Matt and Tazz, they're kind of like, I don't even know what to do. So let's just move on. So we're gonna go into the ring with Jim Ross, who is and Jim Ross is, we're gonna cut back to Jim. Jim, thank you very much. I'm going to announce a man who is donned a certain gimmick. I'm not sure why, but he's a man that I've been a good friend with for some time. So please welcome to the ring, as my guest at this time, Glenn Jacobs. You hear the and he comes out as Fake Diesel.
Oh, God.
And out comes Fake Diesel. It's Glenn Jacobs, but he's got the fake hair, and he's got the straps and all that. And Jim says to Glenn, it's Glenn, it's great to see you. I gotta ask, though, why this? Why the Diesel gimmick? And Glenn says, JR, thank you, but I'm gonna take it from here. And He says, you know, you've known me as many things over my career. I've been a dentist. I've been a demonic psychopath in a red mask. I've been a demonic psychopath without a red mask. I've been a mayor. And yes, I've been an imitation. But there's one thing I've never been in the professional wrestling business, and that's been me. So none of this fake diesel, none of this DDS, none of it at all. You may know me, but you don't know me, Glenn Jacobs. And that is who I am, and what I'm here to prove in ACPW is that Glenn Jacobs can hold his salt with the best of them on his way to the heavyweight championship. And at that moment, out comes Jeff Cobb and Jim Cornette. And Jeff Cobb is looking as big and monstrous as ever, you know, big beefy Hawaiian guy. And Jim Cornette is hobbling to the ring because his knees have been shot. And Cornette comes in and he says only one line, which is hard to do with Jim Cornette, but I'm only giving him one line. And he goes, you know, to be honest, Glenn, I don't care who you were, but I'm going to tell you what you're going to be. Broken. Now we start match number 2. Glenn Jacobs versus Jeff Cobb with Jim Cornette in his corner. This is a real quick one. Basically, Jeff Cobb just demolishes Glenn. I mean, Glenn gets a couple flurries, but it's all Jeff Cobb. It's a display of what he can do. He's doing belly to bellies. He's doing all those rotations, and then finally hits the deadlift power slam, formerly known as the Wrath of the Gods. I don't know what he actually calls it now, but it's this crazy. Have you seen it, Sky? Have you seen his finish?
It's a video game finish.
It's a massive rotation slam, but it's super impressive. It's super, like,
and it's really impressive if he hits that on Glenn Jacobs, because that's not a small guy.
Yeah, no, he slams him, nails him down. Jacobs is hurt. He's not like injury angle hurt, but he's hurt. It takes only one deadlift power slam. The winner's Jeff Cobb. Now Cornette gets the mic, and Cornette said, "Oh no, we're not leaving yet. I got some things to get off my chest. I think it's total bull that you've got the hottest talent in wrestling today, the biggest guy, the most athletic guy, the most functionally strong man in all of professional wrestling, and he doesn't get put into this ACPW title tournament. This is the gold standard right here, and I'm not talking about some guy who teamed up with Brock Lesnar. I'm talking about the new next big thing, the real next big thing in Jeff Cobb, in the way that, you know, only Jim Cornette would, because I'm obviously paraphrasing him here a little bit. But the gist is, he's cutting a promo about being furious about Cobb being left out of that 4-man title tournament, and says, you know what? Just because the higher-ups here don't know it and don't realize it, we're going to make our impression. Jeff Cobb's going to make his impression one way or another, and I guarantee you that. And they leave. And then, you know, we go back to Matt and Tazz a little bit, kind of talking about it, and says, well, now we're moving on. Well, first of all, what'd you think about that?
Establish Jeff Cobb as a powerhouse, and he's got the right guy to talk for him, because if anyone's going to speak him up, it's going to be Jim Cornette.
Absolutely. So Matt Stryker and Tazz says, well, we've got a vignette here because we had some time, and we've got a couple guys who aren't here in the building, but they wanted to make themselves evident because they're going to be here next week. So then we get a vignette of Jinder Mahal. And Jinder Mahal, and I'm gonna read to you exactly what I wrote, because I wrote this in a less than favorable state, and I want you to laugh because it's gonna be funny. Cut to Jinder vignette of him doing various Indian things like high-fiving the Great Khali, working out, and breathing. Now, what I mean by this, Jinder is doing a vignette where he's in his hometown, he's in India, and he's saying, this American talent is so lazy, the American people are so arrogant, and the American talent is so arrogant, and I know that just with the way that I keep myself in shape, and the way that I keep myself calm, cool, and collected in a way that only people who are outside of America can, India has the best wrestling talent, has the best athletes, and I, Jinder Mahal, am the best athlete in all of India, and I'm going to prove it in Atlantic Coast Pro Wrestling by winning the ACPW Heavyweight Championship. And yes, it's going to be like cuts of him high-fiving the Great Khali and doing that like that Zen breathing that he did with WWE, like when he was being transitioned out of being a world title figure into going back to being a jobber. But it's going to be him. It's basically him like working out. It's a hype video, right? It's a hype.
I only have 3 words, and they are "boo this man."
That's the exactly. Yes. Good. Hooray. And he said yes, and he's going to run rampant all over ACPW and be the first Indian champion in America and on a real wrestling promotion where a legitimate wrestling is taken seriously. Because I've always been serious, even when people have made me not to be so. And so he knocks American talent, hypes up Indian talent, and then we get to cut to Matt, Stryker, and Tazz talking about Jinder's in-ring debut next week. Against who? We'll have to wait and see. But he will be debuting in-ring next week. Then we go back to the ring, and it is now Silas Young, the last real man, against Ricochet, Trevor Mann. And now, this finish is Silas Young. Have you ever seen his original finisher?
No, I haven't.
His original finisher, I don't think fits him at all. It's basically, he jumps on the second turnbuckle, jumps and does a slingshot moonsault off the ropes and lands it, and that's his finish. And for a guy who's the last real man, it just didn't fit. So Silas Young's new finishing move is the real man's clothesline, which is just a beefy-ass clothesline. Basically, the clothesline from hell, but it's going to be powerful. Big, thick guy, big mustache. And so here's the finish of the match. They go through, by the way, it's worth noting that matches 1, 2, 3, and 4 all have 10-minute time limits. And matches 5, 6, and 7 have 15-minute time limits, match 8, 20, and the main event 30. So Silas Young goes to attempt the real man's clothesline, and Trevor ducks in kind of like a Matrix thing because, you know, he's Trevor Mann. So Trevor ducks Young's clothesline, and as he ducks, he goes and he back suplexes him. So then he goes up, and he's ready to go up, and he's getting ready to hit that 630. That 630 splash, which is so impressive from Trevor Mann. It's so nice. He goes to hit it, but because he took too long kind of looking at the fans and whatnot, he goes to hit the 630, and now at this point, this is like 9 minutes into the match. The match is almost over, time limit-wise. Well, Silas Young's kind of pissed that he couldn't beat this little pipsqueak. So his anger gets the better of him, he starts clumbing him down, and he throws him over the top rope. And you know what that means? That means that Silas Young has been disqualified. So the winner is Trevor Mann by disqualification, but that's not where it ends. Because even though the match has ended, Young continues to beat down Ricochet, throwing him into the barricade, throwing him into the steel steps, hammering him with right hands, and finally beans him, waits for Trevor to get back up, and finally beans him with a massive real man's clothesline and the outside. And Trevor does one of those in and out bumps where he flips, like does a full flip and lands hard. And I can just imagine Ricochet selling this like gold. And
I bet.
So Silas Young has lost the match, but he's had the last word. And it's very obvious that this is not over between these two in one respect. Because, you know, even though it was an over-the-top disqualification, there was a lot more shenanigans in the afterbirth. Your thoughts?
So you're a big, strong guy. Great way to not have him take a clean loss. And Ricochet, you established as a great high flyer, but he didn't get the job done because of the distraction. Hopefully he becomes more serious and he starts taking things more seriously, especially against a guy like Silas Young.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was also why Silas was kind of upset. He's like, you're not taking me seriously? Well, fine, I'm going to make you take me seriously. And that's where that goes. And then, of course, we cut back to Matt and Tazz. There's going to be a lot of those cutbacks to kind of as the commentators, because they're going to be a bit of the glue to structure this together. As much as they're calling the matches and hyping up people, but they also get to have those visceral reactions without being cliche-ly heel and babyface about it the way that WWE does it. It's just...
I don't know who you're talking about.
You know exactly who I'm talking about.
It's like a certain guy who's the head of a coal mine or something.
Yeah, him, and in a very grave situation. It's, But let's move on, shall we? So then we cut, now Matt and Taz say, Matt's like, okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, we had the chance for another man of ours who has had quite a different reputation. Our man, Jim Ross, was able to sit down with this man and kind of get a little interview with him about what he's here and why he's here. So let's take you now to our sit-down interview with Jim Ross and Orange Cassidy. So Jim Ross, and this is paraphrasing, all right, Orange, is it? And so you're here because your father is one of the main sponsors of ACPW, correct? And Orange Cassidy's hands in his pockets, obviously goes, yeah. He goes, and now I'm just trying to speculate here, but this is what's been told for me, is that your father wanted you to come here to teach you discipline because you're fairly, he claims you're lazy. Is that true? And he goes, yeah. And JR is like, you know, maybe if you come in here and put a little hard work and you can really make something of yourself, and do you want to be world champion? And Orange Cassidy goes, yeah. And JR is like, you know, Mr. Cassidy, you're really not giving me much to work with here. You know, if you really want to show that you're disciplined, don't you want to make your father proud? And he kind of just looks at JR and just kind of gets up and leaves, hands in his pockets, and JR is just looking kind of befuddled, like, what was this? Well, I guess we're just gonna have to deal with Mr. Lazy here, and hopefully he'll get some discipline coming into this. And so then it cuts to the ring, where Orange Cassidy is already in the ring. And Tony Schimmel says, following match scheduled for one fall with a 10-minute time limit. Out comes Robert Roode. And not to Glorious, he comes out to something else. And the reason why, it's not that I didn't like the song, but one of the things I think WWE really messed up with Robert Roode was making his entrance more over than him. Because he is worth it. And is more than just his entrance.
Your goal with all your wrestlers is to not focus on the flashy stuff, but just on the person themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's the people that get over. If the people get over, the people want to come and see the people compete. As much as the showy, flashy stuff is fun, like I didn't mention it, but right as Stryker and Tazz opened up the show, we did get pyro. And we did have the panning shot of the crowd freaking the hell out. That still happened, right? We still got good pyro. We invested in pyro because it's fun. So we're fun. We're a wrestling company, but it's fun. So.
But you're not going to make a guy have no character whatsoever.
Right. If we want to add stuff or make an entrance based on the character's personality or the gimmick's personality on the people themselves, then yes. But I think Glorious was great for Roode initially, but when you took that away from him, they didn't give him enough to describe who he was and why he was important. You know what I mean? And
so why is he important in ACPW?
Well, we're not going to get a promo from him just yet, but it's Orange Cassidy versus Robert Roode, and Orange Cassidy is obviously not taking this seriously. But guess what he's not doing? He's not doing play kicks. He's not doing stupid stuff during the whole thing. He takes his hands out of his pockets to wrestle. Sorry. But in this match, it's pretty quick. Robert Roode wins with a new finisher, which is his spine buster. Because it looks great.
Oh, glorious.
It's a great spine buster. It looks better than Triple H's.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm saying that, and I mean that. I said what I said.
Oh, please, at this point, I think you could give a better spine buster than Triple H.
Yeah, maybe. but Robert,
it's not a hard finishing move.
But Robert Roode, pins Orange Cassidy with a spine buster. Now, it's worth noting that Orange Cassidy does do some nefarious things. You know, he gets a thumb to the eye. You know, he's playing dirty, but he's doing it in a way that's so, like, lackadaisical that it's just, like, it's infuriating, but it's not like he isn't wrestling. You know, that's what I'm saying with Orange Cassidy. It's the in-ring stuff is going to be mostly wrestling, and he uses some dirty stuff. He's not going to be doing play kicks and making a mockery out of the thing he's doing. That's not the laziness I want to see out of him. But that's not to say he's trying with everything he's got. You know, do you know what I mean?
Clearly not. He's only doing half efforts.
Yeah, he's half-assing it.
Do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So then Matt and Tazz react to Robert Roode with the win, who is Roode, obviously the babyface in that situation. And Matt and Tazz react. Then we go, you know, as things are kind of clearing in the ring. And then we go back to JR, who is in the ring with Cody Rhodes. And JR says to Cody, well, Cody, it's no coincidence that with your heritage and with your legacy and what you've done in the world of professional wrestling, that you have absolutely earned this ACPW title shot. Then Cody Rhodes cuts a babyface promo. I'm not even going to try and do a Cody Rhodes promo. Cody Rhodes cuts a promo that Cody Rhodes cuts about getting the title shot, and as a result, he's going to sit ringside to watch the next match, which features one of the men he could potentially be facing next week when we reveal the seeding of what happens as next week's matches occur. So Cody Rhodes is going to be ringside. Now, it's also worth noting that our announce table is going to be back kind of the way that old school Raw was, where it's on the far side, or it's not even like, or it's on a raised, like, elevated place. So we're not going to be seeing a whole lot of announce table spots. Hate to break it to y'all. But that's not to say they won't happen. But it's going to be special when it does happen. So Cody Rhodes is sitting just in a chair, like next to the timekeeper and whatnot. And he's sitting around, and Cody Rhodes cuts a great babyface promo. At least I would assume so. The next match is Walter versus Man Scout Jake Manning. This is a 15-minute time limit, but God, they do not need that much time. Man Scout Jake Manning is pretty much already in the ring, does not get an intro. You know, he gets ring announced, but he's not getting an entrance. You know what I mean? Like he's just kind of like walking up and just getting in the ring, almost like the way the refs do. And because in our context, Man Scout Jake Manning is not important enough. Sorry. Out comes Walter, who gets...
But you know who is important enough?
Walter. Who gets the hero's welcome, although he is a heel in this situation. Because he's a big, monstrous dude, and his frying pan chops echo across the arena, slap and slap and thwap, and he just throws Jake Manning around, just bounces him all around, dominates, and finally finished Manning with a huge powerbomb, 1, 2, 3. And immediately after Walter's finished with Man Scout Jake Manning, he didn't look at Cody Rhodes the entire time. But the second he pinned Jake Manning, dead stare. Dead stare into Cody's eyes. And just has his hand, and he just puts his hands behind his back and just kind of props his shoulders up and gets that really big, bulky chest to look. And you know that those two have locked eyes, and they both know what's at stake. And we know that there's tension in the air you can cut with a knife. And then we go back to Matt and Tazz. What are your thoughts on this match?
I bet there's probably an imprint of Walter's hand on Jake Manning's chest.
Yeah, he's gonna be feeling that for a little while, without a doubt.
But you got the two big dogs just circling around each other, waiting for the first one to make a move.
Yeah. Well, and Cody is a much smaller dog in this situation. This is like a Great Dane going up against a... Well, poodle is not an accurate description. I would say like a Jack Russell, like a big Great Dane.
Like a German Shepherd looking at a bulldog.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're both tough guys, both scrappers. But
one's definitely bigger.
Yeah, but if they do end up facing each other next week, oh man, that's gonna be something to see. So then we go back to we cut back to Matt and Tazz, who react, and then we go back to the ring to JR. And they are in the ring, and he announces out Cesaro and Sheamus. That's Antonio Cesaro, and what is Sheamus's last name?
I don't remember his name.
Sheamus.
Here, give me a minute to look at it.
Yeah. Well,
Give me a minute to look it up.
I was looking up Sheamus's last name because I'm going to use his actual last name. And you know what? I'm going to go back to Claudio Castagnoli for Cesaro. Now that I'm thinking about it. So.
But I like Antonio Cesaro.
I do too, but I like Claudio Castagnoli just as well. So we got Claudio and Sheamus. We'll just go to that. We'll just do Claudio and Sheamus, who are now, just for the sake of legality, we're gonna call them the Standard instead of the Bar. And they come on, they talk about being wrestling standard bearers. I mean, we were the only things keeping tag team wrestling alive before ACPW came along and re-energized tag team wrestling and made it prominent again. We were the two that were keeping it going. We took the beach balls and we laid them down. We took the beach bums and we ripped them apart. And we are going to be, the second we get an opportunity, the new ACPW Tag Team Champions, because we are the archetype for professional wrestling. And then comes Outlaw Inc. Out comes Eddie Kingston and Homicide. And Eddie Kingston cuts a great promo, and I'm not going to try and do his New York accent about all this stuff that he does. But he basically says, you two might be wrestlers, but we've been on the streets. We've been kicking ass since the day we were born. We grew up hard. We're here to be hard, and no amount of your little wrestling acumen is going to stop us from beating your teeth in. You know, and blah, 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 something like that. And, of course, they're kind of, the tensions are rising, and then, of course, it combusts. And they're fighting each other and hammering down, and at the end of the day, Outlaw Inc. are the ones that stand tall, and Castagnoli and Sheamus are looking out, and they're like, they're pretty pissed about it, and they're getting pretty angry, and JR says, well, hold on, you two guys, before you all leave, just so you know, I just got word from Arn Anderson on my headset. Next week, it's the Standard versus Outlaw Inc. And they all look and they're nodding like, all right, it's on, blah blah blah. They start arguing, tensions are rising, and we know that we've got ourselves a great tag team match heading into week 2.
I pray for the referee of that match to keep that chaos under control.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck, Aubrey.
You're going to have to get, Earl Hebner in there, because he's going to be the only one that can possibly control those doors.
I think Aubrey can hold her own. I've seen Aubrey hold her own. She backed down Chris Jericho. I think Aubrey Edwards might be perfect for that match.
Very well.
That has actual tags and uses the tag rope, and there are no backslap tags, and anyway.
Hey, don't talk about Marco Stunt like that.
I wouldn't, because I wasn't mentioning Marco Stunt. You mentioned Marco Stunt. I'm just mentioning certain things in the tag world that happened that I don't care for. Match 6 is Heath Slater versus Pentagon Jr. After we have the reactions from Matt and Tazz, we go back to the ring, blah, blah, blah. Heath Slater versus Pentagon Jr. with everybody's favorite manager, Zelina Vega. And I know you're still a little butthurt about this, so I'm going to keep it brief. The finish of this match goes probably 7 or 8 minutes. It's not going to be long. Actually, I might give him a little bit more time than that. I might give him up to like 10 or 12. But it's not a whole lot. So what happens is Pentagon hits the package pile driver and is about to go for the pin when Zelina Vega stops him and says, no. Teach this gator a lesson. Break his arm. Snap it, dislocate his arm.
No, don't do it.
So Pentagon
has kids.
Pentagon goes to wrench up and wrenches that arm up, like he does when he gets ready to set. But at that moment, he had taken just enough time for Heath Slater to grab just enough energy to actually grab Pentagon's leg and pull with that arm, Pentagon to shoot into the ropes. Penta shoots from the ropes, and Heath Slater gets a small package. 1, 2, 3. Heath Slater steals one.
He did it!
And Pentagon is stunned. And Zelina Vega is pissed. And you could tell that, Pentagon is a little upset at Zelina Vega. He's like, I kind of had this one taken care of. You know, but you know, you don't see any of that. You don't see the conversation between the two of them. You can kind of tell that Pentagon is a little irked, and Zelina's a little irked because I think she thought that Pentagon was just going to get the job done. And that was going to be that. Heath Slater leaves with a small package. What a win for Heath! What a surprise victory, and
especially for a hometown guy.
And it's well, he's not. Well, we're in North Carolina. Is he from North Carolina?
He lives in North Carolina. He lives in North Carolina.
That I didn't even realize that. There you go, Heath.
He was born in West Virginia, but he lives in North Carolina.
Even better. Even better. So, Heath Slater gets a big babyface win, a surprise babyface win, and of course Matt and Tazz are reacting to that and saying, "Oh, what's going to happen now with Pentagon and Zelina?" They're obviously upset about that. And Heath gets a surprise win. Then we go back to JR. And now we're getting into the back third of this show. So now we're into the real thick stuff. The real juicy bits. If the show wasn't engaging already, it's the new bits. JR says, "Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to bring this group of people into this ring for the first time. Their accolades speak for themselves. They've won championship, they've won world titles and tag titles everywhere they've gone. All of them have. And I am so excited to bring these three in. Please welcome the team of wrestling's finest. Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, and Britt Baker."
Oh, God.
And out come all four, and Britt and Cole are holding hands going into the ring because, hey, and for fair disclosure, we're not going to be doing what WWE did and goes, "Hey, do you guys know that Becky and Seth are dating?" We're not doing that. None of that. You guys already know that. We may mention it once, like, "Oh, Adam Cole and Britt are in a relationship." Period. End of statement. End of the whole thing. That's it. Done. They go into the ring, and JR goes, "I know you guys have had a lot to say, but you wanted to come out here tonight to make a particular statement." And Fish takes the mic and goes, "That's right, JR. Here in ACPW, we've done a lot of things in our past. Some things that we're not proud of. Some things that we are proud of, like winning world titles all over the world. But now we're here where wrestling is truly at its peak in Atlantic Coast Pro Wrestling. And we are turning over a new leaf." Hands the mic to, or actually O'Reilly comes up to JR because JR is kind of leading this whole thing as in the way that Mean Gene did for Nitro. And then comes O'Reilly who says, "That's right. So for all of you out there, I know there's some people who are here who we faced before, even recently, who have come in to test their might in ACPW, which is where all of the best wrestling takes place. And we want you to know we're doing things differently. We're not the same guys that we used to be. We're not undisputed, but we are a new era. But we are the wrestling's finest. That's what we are, and that's what we always tout to be." And Adam Cole now gets the mic, baby. And he says, "And to prove it, we are turning a new leaf. And I, with my lovely wife," looks to Britt, big old goofy smile on his face. And same with Britt, they're obviously like, "Oh my God, they're in love." Cole says, "And to prove that, we're making a definitive statement right now. And that statement is that we're done with the underhanded tactics. We're done with cheating. We're done with all of this nefarious stuff that people do all the time to advance themselves." And when Cole says this, both Fish and O'Reilly look a little quizzically at him, like, "Wait, what?" They don't say anything to him. They just look quizzically at Cole when he says this. And he goes, "And to prove it, I'd like to invite two guys who we have had issues with over the past several years to come out, and we would like to shake your hand and show you that there's no hard feelings. So Johnny, Tommaso, come on out, guys." Out comes Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, who are looking very obviously skeptical, and they say, "Okay, you can't expect us to believe this, right? We've known you guys for way too long. We've been in the same companies you've been in different companies for years and years and years. You think we don't know who you guys are and what you guys do? I'm not buying this at all." And Cole's like, "To believe me, you just got to believe me on this one. I promise you, we're different. I have the faith that we are different. And in that, Adam Cole goes to shake Ciampa's hand and Gargano's hand, and you know, they're very hesitant, and they kind of like lightly touch and reel their hands back because they're really testy. And then finally Johnny says, you know what? I'm sorry if we can't believe you, but if you really want to prove that you're not going to do underhanded tactics and you're not going to be the guys that you were for literally your entire careers, then face us right here, right now, and prove it. And of course, there's that look, but then Arn Anderson comes out before anything happens and goes, wait. I know a money match when I hear it. And Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano versus Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly is a money match. Which is why I'm not giving it away in the spur of the moment. Next week, you get Ciampa and Gargano versus Fish and O'Reilly. But tonight, because I do like the idea of somebody in this group competing, I've got another match we're going to have happen. Tonight, it's going to be Johnny Gargano one-on-one with Adam Cole. However, Adam Cole, you can only choose one person of your group to stay ringside. Fair is fair. If you want fair to be fair, you get one person. Ciampa's in Gargano's corner, you get one. And now Redragon is upset because they wanted to be out here just, you know, to do some underhanded stuff. And Adam Cole's like, no problem at all. And he looks at all three. He's got Britt Baker, he's got Bobby Fish, and he's got Kyle O'Reilly, and goes, I'm going to choose Britt. And he chooses his lovely wife. And Britt gives him a big kiss, and obviously Fish and O'Reilly are upset. Like, dude, what, really? You're going to have her here. You're going to have her here. In this, and that's going to even the odds. And Cole's like, it's okay. We're going to be fine. I know how to handle myself. I've been a world champion. Like, and they're like, okay. So they walk to the back, but you can tell there's obviously some tension there between the two. That is fair. That was a big segment. Then comes the match. A lot of time. Then comes the match. Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano. This match is a clean match. There is nothing underhanded the whole way through. Ciampa doesn't get involved. Britt doesn't get involved. And the finish is Adam Cole is locked in the Gargano escape, but Adam Cole rolls it through. As Gargano rolls it through, and Cole is a little slow to get up because he's still hurting. Gargano shoots off the ropes to hit something, but gets hit with an Adam Cole super kick, which drops Gargano to his knees. And as he's dropped to his knees, Cole shoots off the ropes and hits the last shot. 1, 2, 3. Adam Cole wins clean. Now, after that, Britt comes in to celebrate with Cole, comes up, and then Cole goes to take Gargano's hand and help Johnny up. And he helps Johnny up. Tommaso gets in the ring, and Adam Cole holds out that hand again. Says, fair is fair. We had a good, clean match. You just wasn't your night. And all four shake hands. And there's a sign of respect. As Gargano and Ciampa leave, Adam Cole and Britt celebrate, and then we go back to Matt and Tazz to react, surprised that Adam Cole and Britt Baker actually stayed underhanded tactic free. Your thoughts?
But you would forgive me if I wasn't still suspicious because of their history.
Absolutely. You absolutely could be. But that's the...
But that sounds like a great match for the TV show.
It's... Continue.
Those two are magic whenever they're in the ring.
Yep. And really, when you think about it, they only get...
Except when they go too spot heavy.
Well, that's why they only get 15 minutes. Because you have to condense it all to make, because this is television. This is free television. Well, not free. You have to pay your cable subscriber, but this is television. So come back, Taz, and Matt and Taz, same thing. Taz is like, Matt's like, well, maybe he has turned a new leaf, and Taz's like, I don't know, man. I'm just not buying it yet. I mean, it was a good match. It was a clean match, and he didn't do anything shady, so who knows? But who knows? Maybe
once a skunk, always a skunk.
But maybe Britt Baker is turning Adam Cole around. Maybe she's been a good influence on him. Who knows? Who knows? And Matt's like, I don't. But with that said, we've got another vignette of another guy who isn't here, but he will be here next week competing. And now we cut to the vignette for Shorty G. Wait, you're going to like this. Shorty G is going to cut the Mr. Perfect vignette. And it's basically him being really good at every sport and being super cocky and a super dick about it. He's like, yeah, I've won Olympic gold. Yeah, you know what else I could do? I could dunk. And I could shoot a three-pointer. And I can catch a football at any time, anywhere. I play tennis. Like, it's literally just him being like a snotty guy. Like a Kurt Angle mixed with a Mr. Perfect vignette.
Oh, God.
In a way that Shorty does it, and he's being super cocky and super arrogant. I could just imagine this being just hysterically funny. But in a heelish way, so people aren't going to want to like Shorty G. Because his name is short. And he's like, yeah, my name's Chad Gable, but you don't deserve my full name. You're going to get my short name, Shorty G. And so we're going to keep that gimmick, but we're going to make Chad Gable mean something still. So we're going to see him next week. Then we go back to Matt Stryker and Tazz and say, well, guess what? We're heading back to JR. JR is now in the ring with MJF. Basically talking to MJF, who is another member of this group of 4 guys who are competing for the ACPW championship. And MJF, I'm not even going to try and attempt an MJF promo, in the same way I wasn't going to attempt a Cody Rhodes promo. MJF runs down the crowd, and Brian Cage, who is his opponent, to come up. But MJF is running down everybody. I'm better than you, and you know it, blah, blah, blah. Heel promo, gets a ton of heat. Out comes Brian Cage, who basically says, you know, I'm a machine, which was his whole thing. But out comes Brian Cage, cuts a decent promo about being the best talent there is. And, you know, I wasn't put in the set of 4, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to earn a spot. That doesn't mean I'm not going to earn my world championship. And you complaining, even though you're getting handed everything you want, I don't appreciate. So it's MJF versus Brian Cage in a 20-minute time limit match. During this whole match, Brian Cage has MJF beat multiple times. But MJF is a slippery MF-er. And he keeps finding ways to get out. Like maybe, you know, he gets hit and then he just rolls out of the ring, or he gets his hand under the ropes. Or he, you know, uses his foot for leverage and stuff like that. So MJF is being slippery and slimy. And finally, Brian Cage hits that huge discus clothesline to knock him down. And he's about to hit that big weapon X or whatever. But before he gets the chance, time's up. It's a time limit draw.
Ooh.
And Brian Cage didn't get MJF beat, but MJF also didn't beat Brian Cage. And that's going to be important next week. So there's no winner. It's a time limit draw, which feels kind of like a, you know, laxatives in church, but it's a draw. So it's like the fans are like, they don't know what to do. Brian Cage kind of celebrates and MJF kind of celebrates, but they kind of just go their separate ways. There's no additional fighting or anything like that. It's just the draw, and they're kind of both upset. But MJF is, of course, acting like he won the match. You know, MJF's like, I did it. I won because, you know, I didn't lose, so I won. And Brian Cage just kind of walks to the back. He kind of shakes his head. And then we cut this Matt Stryker and Tazz to react to MJF and Brian Cage. 20-minute time limit draw. Your thoughts?
This is not going to be over between these two. That's for certain.
Without a doubt.
But MJF took a lot of damage in that 20 minutes, and we have to see how he handles it in the first round of the ACPW World Title Tournament.
That's right. And now up next. Oh boy, this is where the fun begins. If it weren't already fun. Now, JR says, ladies and gentlemen, it is my chance to welcome the fourth and final man that you haven't seen of these 4 men in this ACPW title tournament. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a former dominant, absolute dominant powerhouse ever to be seen in pro wrestling. Had one of the greatest winning streaks of all time. Has won multiple championships even as recent as this year at a ripe age, but a man who still dominates and gets the job done. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bill Goldberg.
Goldberg
intro. Yep. And Goldberg comes in and goes, you know, I already know who's next. But I have to say, now that I'm at this twilight of my career, you know, I'm starting to wind things down, but I still believe that I can win championships, and now I'm not doing it for me. The past few years, I have kids, and I want my kids to have an idol. And I want them to believe that they can do anything they set their mind to, and I'm out there to help kids everywhere. And there's a certain guy that I met a couple years ago when I was doing things for another company, and I met him, who also happens to be a tag team champion. So please welcome the guy that I'm doing this for, and a man who I know looks up to me, and I don't want to let him down. Please welcome Nicholas.
Oh, no.
Nicholas comes in the ring. Nicholas comes into the ring, says nothing, and Goldberg says, listen, I'm doing this for all the little Goldbergs out there, like my man Nicholas, who's going to... Out comes Jeff Cobb and Jim Cornette. And Jim Cornette, and now JR is like, oh boy. Jim Cornette comes out and says, I told you it was going to be somebody, and that we were going to make our statement known. Unfortunately, Goldberg, it has to be you. And during this time, JR leaves the ring. He's like, oh shit, it's going down. Goldberg and Jeff Cobb and Goldberg kind of have that big stare down. Goldberg goes to hit a spear. Cobb doesn't move. And Goldberg just kind of lays flat on the mat and just looks up like, what the hell just happened? So Goldberg goes for another spear. Cobb doesn't move. Goldberg is stunned, and he's trying to hit the knees, but Cobb just wrenches him, gets him up, hits him with a belly to belly, and down he goes. Then he hits not one, but two deadlift power slams to Goldberg, who is very clearly injured, because the second one happens on the exposed concrete outside the ring. Goldberg, the 53-year-old dominant man, is down and out, leaving Nicholas alone in the ring with Jim Cornette and Jeff Cobb. And Jim Cornette looks to Cobb and says, I think this kid wanted to be Goldberg. I don't think he understands. This kid wants to be a wrestler. Look at him. He was former tag champion, right? Why don't you show him what being a wrestler is all about? And then you could very much tell the mood in the entire arena changes. They're like, no, he's not going to hit a kid, right? He's not going to power slam a child. This is not going to happen. Immediately, Cornette goes to push Nicholas into Cobb, and Cobb is about to, and like Cobb goes to lift him up, and referees are pouring into the ring. And they're not ineffective WWE referees who literally just stand there going, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. Please, no. Oh, my God, no. Oh, no, you did it. Oh, no. Why'd you do that? I don't know what you did, but I'm throwing my hands up in the air as if that's doing anything. No, they're trying to actually take the kid out of Jeff Cobb's hands. And Cobb drops Nicholas and just starts beaning all these referees. And now Tazz and Stryker are like, this was not planned, folks. This was not supposed to happen. This is not going down. This was not announced. And now there's like a genuine amount of concern, because now Cornette has got Nicholas, and he's holding Nicholas as baby faces start storming the ring to try to save this kid from getting absolutely destroyed. I mean, Goldberg is injured, laying out on the side of the ring. MFing Goldberg. He had already power slammed Glenn Jacobs earlier in the night. And Cobb just starts pounding these baby faces, just tossing around like they're just pieces of meat. Just chucks Man Scout, chucks Heath Slater. More and more people are coming in the ring, and more Cobb is holding Nicholas, Cornette's holding Nicholas, but he's also jabbing at referees himself. Nicholas is trying to run away, but nobody's getting able to help. And finally, all the baby faces are laid out, all the refs are laid out, and Cornette's like, it's time, let's do this. Pushes Nicholas back into Cobb. Cobb has him like on his arms, like he's about ready to do the deadlift power slam, and he's lifting up, and Cornette's giving him like he's about to hit the thumbs down, and all of a sudden, sprinting down the ramp is Titus O'Neil. Good guy. Real good man, Titus O'Neil, comes up, hits a boot. That boot hits Jeff Cobb and jets enough to stagger Cobb enough for Nicholas to break free and roll out of the ring and book it. And Titus O'Neil goes to hit a flurry, but Cobb immediately gets him in a knee and just breaks him down, and then goes and shoots him off the ropes because he's getting ready for another big move. But Titus O'Neil hits another big boot, and Cobb staggers to the side, and Titus O'Neil slides underneath the ropes and walks out and says, "You're not," and you know, you could tell, "You're not gonna mess with a kid on my watch. This is," and Cornette and Cobb are so angry. They are super livid at what's taking place. They can't imagine that somebody was actually able to stop Jim Cornette and stop Jeff Cobb. Titus O'Neil saved Nicholas from certain hospitalization. And as everything clears out and Titus O'Neil is walking back with Nicholas and walks back just making sure he's okay, and finally leaves out of the ring, and Cornette and Cobb, you know, they're like, Cornette's like, "All right, come on, let's go." But, you know, because that was the end of it. But the baby faces, you know, wasn't supposed to happen, you know, but everything kind of settles down, and Matt, Stryker, and Tazz react. And they're like, whoa, that was, ladies and gentlemen, that was not planned whatsoever. We cannot obviously condone the actions of Jeff Cobb and Jim Cornette, who were threatening an actual child with injury. And naturally, we will keep you updated on Goldberg's condition. Goldberg has to be stretchered out. And that
puts his position in the world title tournament at risk.
Yes. So that is the real major angle of the show. Your thoughts?
Jeff Cobb is a monster, and Jim Cornette has no low blow he won't go do.
He's real good at getting heat, isn't he?
Oh, yes.
And speaking of Cornette, Cornette sends Jeff Cobb to the back, but he's not done. Because then we move on to our main event. It is FTR with Jim Cornette taking on the Hardys.
Interesting that you have Jim Cornette managing multiple people.
It used to be that way. You know how many people Jimmy Hart managed at once? Like 10. Bobby Heenan had like 30. So, anyway, it's FTR with Jim Cornette versus the Hardys. And the only reason I put Cornette in this is that he was key to the finish. It's a 30-minute time limit. This match is going to go like 28 minutes. This is, I mean, between the Hardys and FTR, this is going to be an instant classic, as I'm sure you could probably guess.
Uh-huh.
So here's the finish, and this took me forever to come up with. So I'm going to read this as best I can. So Jeff Hardy gets the hot tag. After FTR has been working on Matt, Jeff Hardy gets the hot tag, starts taking him up. He gets fed beautifully, finally gets up into the top rope and hits a Whisper in the Wind for a 2 count. Then he tags in the Matt, and Matt tries to hit a side effect. And this is at a point, and he's doing this on Cash Wheeler, right? He hits a side, and as he's hitting a side effect, Dax Hardwood comes into the ring like to try to break it up, and Jeff Hardy clotheslines him out of the ring, or knocks him out of the ring through the ropes, not over the top, so it's not disqualification. Knocks him through the ropes and tries to go in. Now Jim Cornette is pissed because Cornette notices, hey, just so happens that Jeff Hardy was not the legal man. He shouldn't have been in the ring. So he gets up on the apron to start complaining with the ref. And he's complaining with the ref, and during that time, Matt Hardy picks up Cash Wheeler to hit him with a twist of fate. Jeff has come back into the ring. Hardwood also comes back into the ring because he was only knocked out temporarily. Comes back into the ring, but he soon runs up, and immediately Jeff Hardy gets him, and now it looks like Matt and Jeff are about to hit twists of fate in tandem. But at this time, Cash Wheeler is really punching at Matt's gut, and Hardwood moves to the ring, the side of the ring that Cornette is arguing with the referee, and is pushing Jeff Hardy back while he's still in this headlock. And just as Jeff gets to the ropes, Jim Cornette, in a fit of real anger, jumps up on the second rope to kind of get a jumping, like he's really trying to get the high ground on the referee to emphasize his point. But that happened to be just enough to get Jeff out of the ring. So it actually caused Jeff to lose his balance, break the headlock, and leave and tumble out of the ring. At that time, as that moment occurs, hoof to the nads by Cash Wheeler onto Matt Hardy. Shoots Matt Hardy off the ropes. They hit the Shatter Machine. 1, 2, 3. FTR, thanks to Dirty Tactics and Jim Cornette, have won the ACPW Tag Team Championships.
Well deserved, maybe.
And FTR celebrates,
because those guys.
Clearly the Hardys are going to be pissed because that was clearly dirty tactics, underhanded moves by both the manager and the FTR. And we will see how that turns out. FTR celebrates with Jim Cornette, and that closes the show. New tag team champions, stay tuned for next week. So what do you think?
Bravo, my man. Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you.
That finish took forever, didn't it?
It took me so long to develop that finish because what I was trying to do was not do like stereotypical finishes, right? The stuff we see all the time. I was trying to do some creative stuff that's outside the box that we don't normally get.
It's hard to do when wrestling's been around for so long.
It is.
Props to you, man. Jim Cornette is the star of your show because he was everywhere tonight.
And he helped put a lot of guys over. I mean,
but you clearly established who are the top dogs, who are the guys who are not top dogs, where everyone is. It's a great show.
Thank you. I genuinely appreciate that. And I hope that you, the fans at home, will also enjoy the show. Now, we've got 3 weeks now, before we both get to display week 2. So the third week of July, we will recongregate, and we will hear both National Wrestling League show and ACPW's second show. A lot of exciting things to come. Thank you, Skyler, for once again being on the show, and for being a good sport all 4 weeks of this. This has been a really fun June having you along.
Of course. But I have a question, sir.
Yes.
How can the fans voice their opinion about whose show they like better?
Well, it's very easy. All you got to do is first do what I tell you to do every time. In that description, you got to like, you got to share, you got to subscribe, and you got to tombstone pile driver that bell button. I'm not trying to be cliche. It's just what you got to do. But if you want to say which show you preferred more, leave it in the comments section below. And we are going to, as this goes on, we're going to tally how many votes one show gets over the other, because that's going to be important in 3 months' time. So if you liked it, be vocal about it. There is no judgment here except for our programs. So with that said, have to take our first commercial break. Sky, thanks so much for being on the show. I'm excited to see where NWL heads next.
And I'm excited to see where ACPW goes.
Excellent.
It's going to be a great show.
And as will NWL. And with that said, thank you very much for listening and watching, folks. We will see you next time, and we will be right back.